Okay, so we're talking about an integral, and integrals are actually areas. What we're finding are areas. So when you find the integral, you're finding the area between a graph and the x-axis. So do we need to graph everything on our homework? Not everything, but I would like you to graph some things. I'll tell you which ones I want, okay, when I describe the homework. But we're going to graph these. So to graph them, the first thing that you want to do is you want to go ahead and do a little chart. So you have 0 to 1 on your x's, and then you have y equals 8x. So I have 0 to 1, and then I want, between my 0 and my 1, I want 4 subintervals. So that means I want 4 rectangles. That means between 0 and 1, I want 4 like spaces in between the numbers. Okay, so that's what I'm really looking for. I'm looking for 4 subintervals, so 4 spaces in between the numbers. All right, so 4 spaces. I'm going to go in the middle. I have 1/2, and then this is a quarter, and then I add a quarter, and I get 3/4. Okay, I plug those into here, and then I get 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. I go ahead and graph that, and I make my line. So after I graph it and I make my line, I'm going to draw, because I want to know that you know also how to draw left endpoints. So what you do is I always go like up from these, right? From 0, 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and 1. I go up to my curve, and then I find my left endpoints. So I want to find a left endpoint, drag it to the right. Left endpoint, drag it to the right, left endpoint, drag it to the right, left endpoint, drag it to the right, and then you can see why I said there's 4 rectangles, but it looks like only 3. There is a rectangle right here. The height of the rectangle is 0. So see, these are actually the y values, those are up and down, right? Those are heights. So 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8 are the heights of my points. My rectangles on the left side, if I draw rectangles from the left, I have a 0, I have a 2 for my height, I have a 4, and I have a 6 for my height. And then my x values, those are on the bottom, those are my bases of the triangle, or bases of the rectangle. So I want to show you. So let's say you have something like this. You have 4 rectangles, right? 4 rectangles, base times height. Well, your heights are different. Your heights are all different, but your bases are the same. The base is 1/4, and then you add another 4th, and then you add another 4th, and another 4th. So B's are all the same, but the heights, but the heights are different. So what you can do, instead of writing it like that, you can factor out the base, and then you can just say, okay, well, I'm going to write it like this, and then now I can just add the heights together and multiply it, and then I'll get my answer. So that's what I did over here, okay? So here's my base, here's my height 1, height 2, height 3, height 4. And how you can do this pretty easily once you have this chart is if you're looking for left endpoints, you just go ahead and use the 1, 2, 3, 4 left heights. That's all you do. And then you just plug it in. I know it's a 0, but plug in a 0 anyway, and then, calculate it, okay? Okay, to do the right endpoints, you're going to do the same thing. I wanted to draw it for you. Same picture, but see, the right is my endpoint, so then I drag it to the left and down, to the left and down, to the left and down, and then to the left and down. And then when I do my area, the difference is I have my base, which is 1/4, and then I use my 1, 2, 3, 4 right endpoints, and then I have my answer. It makes sense that this is going to be less than this. The 3 and the 5, if you look at this, this is an underestimate, and this is an overestimate. So I can, it makes sense when I look at the answers and when I look at the pictures too, okay? All right. So same idea for left and right, 8 subintervals. You can see right here, sorry about the whiteout, you can see, well, I start with 0. I don't have my 0. I'm going to add in 0 right here. So I have my 0, and then I want 8 subintervals, so then I have to go 1/8, right? And then I have my base and my 8 left endpoints. It's still an underestimation. And then I go over here and I do my 8 on the right. It's going to be 1/8. And then instead of 0 through 7, it's 1 through 8. So 1 through 8. And then that's going to be 4.5. So we're getting a little bit closer. The more rectangles, the closer we are to the actual answer. So here's my question to you. What's the actual area? Well, I mean, this is a triangle, and we can tell it's just going to be the middle between this and this, right? So it's going to be exactly 4. Like, rarely are you going to have an exact number. You're only going to have an exact number when this is a line, when you're finding the area under a line. Anything else is not going to be exact ever. So here's another one. So this one is talking about midpoints, okay? Oops, all right, there we go. So this one is talking about midpoints, and then the midpoints are like a little bit more annoying. So the midpoints, we want 4 subintervals, and then we want to go between 1 and 5. Okay, so here's the thing. So when you draw the picture, you don't need this to draw the picture. I would never use that to draw the picture, okay? Instead, I would just draw, 4x squared. So I would start at plug in a 1, what do you get? Plug in a 2, what do you get? Plug in a 5, what do you get? So I would draw it just using this, okay? Just in my head, I can do the t-chart in my head and I can draw it from there. And then how you draw the midpoints is you literally just forget about this. You're just going to put a point, a point, a point, a point in the middle of those. So you draw the rectangles yourself, and then you put a point where the graph is. You put a point right at 1.5, right at 2.5. Do I know what that value is? I don't yet. But I had the graph, and then I estimate, here's 1.5, I go up and I make a point. Here's 2.5, I go up and I make a point. And then from there, I draw the left side and the right side of my rectangle, and I drop it down. So I would draw it that way. So I wouldn't use these numbers for it, okay? These numbers I got from actually doing the 1 point, and I have to figure out these numbers, which is the annoying part about midpoints. So I have to do 1.5, and then I square the 1.5, and then I times 4. Okay, so that seems crazy, but really, I want to show you. So 1.5 is actually 3 over 2, okay? 3 over 2 squared times 4. So 3 over 2 is going to be 4 times 9 over 4. Oh, that's just 9. So this is possible to do if you write it in fractions and then if you don't have a calculator. Will you have a calculator? Yeah, because everything's open notes. But I'm just saying it's possible without a calculator, okay? So you have these 4 values, and then to calculate midpoint, it's actually easier once you have the values because you just you use all of them basically, okay? And then one more, so using left endpoints. Okay, so left endpoints, you would need from 0 all the way to 5. So we're doing the same values. Oh, sorry, that's a 1, not a 0. That's crazy. That's good that I look over these. So it's a 1 to 5, and we're going by 0.5s. So add 0.5, add 0.5, and then there's going to be 8 subintervals in the middle. And then you plug these in to here, and then you get these values. You're using left endpoints. So let's see, what's my base? What's all my heights? My base is 0.5, right? All my bases are 0.5, so 1/2. And then left endpoints, I go from 4 all the way to 81. So 4 all the way to 81, I plug it in, and I get this. So this is an approximation, not a final answer. And then what we do on our calculators is an integral, and that is a real final answer. And it's not an approximation. It's going to be really the answer to it. It's going to give you a pretty exact value, okay? So the integral from, 2 to 5 of a function in terms of x. So that's how it's said. So an integral from a number to a number of a function in terms of x. So when we say in terms of x, that means a is an x value, b is an x value, and that's what we're finding. So you're going to make sure that you can plug this into your calculators. I know it looks different on your paper because it's supposed to have in terms of x and parentheses in terms of x. So make sure that you can do these. I feel like you're just going to copy me, but make sure that you plug 2 or 3 of these in your calculator and you know how to do it, okay? Because I'm going to ask you to do it. And then from example 1, we knew that our final answer is going to be 4. Again, this should have a dx. What? So in terms of x equals, in terms of x equals. There we go. Okay. This is from example 2. So you're just like finding, instead of midpoint, left endpoint, you're finding the actual answer. So 165 and a third, basically, that's really close to midpoint. So you can see how much closer midpoint is to the actual answer than a left endpoint or a right endpoint. Okay. But definitely plug some of those in and be able to do it on a calculator because you don't want to do it by hand all the time. And the calculator gives you like a way more accurate answer. Okay, thanks guys. Ask me questions if you have questions.